Hey friends, welcome back. It is Infrastructure Day here in the garden. We have three main priorities for today. The first is a pathway solution. We're throwing down some weed barrier. I'm going to walk you through that process here in a second. Our second item is our support system. A lot of these cut flowers, they're going to get tall and we need a way to corral them in. So we're going to be setting some T-posts and I'll show you the locations and the reasoning behind all these. Third thing is we have another row that is ready for its second weeding. So I'm going to give it another pass and we're going to top dress it with some compost. We are cooking right along. So let's go. Friends, this is what we are working with. This is more of a heavy duty solution. This is not the thin fabric that you might get from like Costco, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever's in your area. This is more of an industrial solution that a lot of greenhouses use. So we have ordered this in a 3-foot width because that is how these pathways have been designed. Now, do you see what is happening here? I've got my 3-foot tape measure out, but we are creeping way in with grass, weeds, all that kind of stuff. In fact, the grass edge right here is totally blurred. So before I put this down, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut it a little bit short. I'm going to give myself probably 2 to 3 inches on either side because the goal here is what I'd actually like to do is I would like to edge this, which I think I'm going to use like an old school edger to do because it's what I have. I'm going to edge this row. So that way, when we go to install this weed barrier, we're going to roll it all out, but I can actually tuck the edges a little bit and then compost up to them. So that is the plan of action. Sun is creeping in, so no time to waste. So I want to take a moment real quick here because as we're going up and down these rows, it's really, really interesting. Even though I think I have done a good job of amending, down there, the dirt is way better than it is up here. I mean, part of me wonders if like maybe it's some downhill drainage or what the scoop is. But when I'm up here, I'm looking at this. Oh, look, here's more weeds. Look how just sandy this is. This isn't as bad as a lot of the pockets up top where we've just started working the garden. This soil I started working, man, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So in any event, what this tells me, and this is why it's really important to get down in here, is you want to see for yourself, how is your soil reacting? Now, I watered this morning. You can see my drip irrigation, but this is super dry. So I have work to do up here. I'm making a mental note. I'm probably going to put a note in my phone that I need to circle back here and really top dress this area with some of the compost that I got from the dirt exchange. I need more water retention up here. All right, friends, this is just a few feet down, maybe, I don't know, how far down? 5 feet, 6 feet down. And on the other side of the row, look at this. I've done such a better job of amending up here. Look at this. I'm going to form a ball. You can still, it's still holding shape. Not too, I mean, it's not like the best. It's still really sandy, but this is actually, you guys, I wonder if this is why my dahlias down here are so much happier. Cause like this is beautiful. Like this is really like lovely, workable soil. You can tell there's more moisture in it. You know, I watered this morning. It can actually hold a little bit of its form. Not bad, guys, not bad. You guys, moral of the story, always get your hands in the dirt. Know what your dirt is doing. The dirt, the earth, is literally the lifeblood of your garden. So get to know it. And you're going to notice it may be that you have work to do in one area and not so much work in the other area. Really great lesson for today. Well, friends, that took a little bit longer than anticipated, but I feel really good at where we're at. We have essentially, you'll see, we cut the grass back, we took it all out, tried to leave as much dirt as possible, and then we troughed the edges. I also raked this area because it was a little bit lumpy. There were some rocks over here, and so I just wanted to like kind of get it as best as we could before putting down the barrier. Now, at the edge of this row is the supply line. I'm actually going to run it underneath the supply line and leave my supply line exposed at the top, just because I don't want to do this to all my supply lines going down. I don't want to duck them under the ground. So supplies we're going to use: weed barrier, mallet. This is just a nice rubber mallet. And then I'm going to bring you up close and I'm going to show you this pin. Essentially, this is a newer one. We are using this time. I just got this off Amazon. You've seen me use, oh yeah, like landscape staples like this. We're using a much heavier weed barrier, so I need something more robust to go through it. This is a heavier gauge, and it gives me a bigger surface for hitting this down. So it's going to secure this just a lot better than a landscape staple is. I will go ahead and add links to everything I'm using down in the description below. Let's do it. It's getting hot. Okay, friends, I want to show you an up close. So this is how the landscape fabric comes. There is a fuzzy side. There is the shiny side that has these green stripes on it. Shiny side goes up, fuzzy side goes down. I'm going to start with tacking this down at the opposite end, and then I'm going to roll it towards the camera. The reason I'm doing this is because I actually want to stretch my landscape fabric out before I just start like tacking everything in. I want a nice straight row. I want it even. Wonkadoodle lines will drive me crazy down here. So I'm going to measure to make sure I'm equidistant between my posts because those are fairly straight. And we'll tack these down and then you'll see me roll it out and we'll stretch it tight. That's the proper way to do this. If you try to go like tack by tack by tack, you're going to end up with fabric that is like doing a lot of this, which is not what we want. Also, this is, the reason we are choosing this application is this is a utilitarian surface. I need something heavy duty. I need to roll a wheelbarrow. I need to roll a yard waste container down here. I'm taking a commercial application and I'm applying it to my home garden because I am behaving in this space like it's a commercial space. Does that make sense? All right, let's get after it. Okay, I've come down to the end here. I secured it there, measured it, made sure it was perfect. Then I'm pulling it this way because I needed to loop it underneath my supply line. Now that I have it straight in here, at this very end, I'm actually going to double up my fabric so I don't have a raw end. And so I need to secure it here first before I come back here and secure the end. From this point forward, I'm going to start now bending this fabric down into the little trough we've created. So I'm wrapping the edges, just making sure this is a super secure space. And the reason that we're utilizing this trough method is because I just want to round the edges. What I noticed from previous experience is grass will just shoot out the sides. So if I round it a little bit, it just forms more of a secure hump. And I have less weeds growing out from the inside. Have you noticed it's like quiet as a mouse out here? morning, friends. It is the next day. Yesterday, we spent 4 hours down here, and it was getting hot by the time we were all said and done. And that's hot for Seattle. I know, like, California is really different. The South is really different. But here in Seattle, it gets hot. It gets hot, and we're not used to it. I wanted to bring you up here to do a little intro this morning so you could see what we got done yesterday. And this is kind of hilarious, but every time I'm up here looking down on the cut flower garden, all I can think of is in Lion King when Mufasa's like, all that the light touches is yours, Simba. That's how I feel whenever I look down on the cut flower garden from this view. So let's take a look. So you can see my first 4 rows, they are completely edged in, and we were able to get everything covered in this new, more commercial grade landscape fabric. Over here, where you see these little T-posts, this little line here, this is the next row that we are working on. It's been weeded once, and then I went through yesterday and weeded the back half up to, gosh, maybe about right here. And so that has been weeded a second time. The reason we're doing 2 weeds is because it actually is more efficient. So Brian will go through one time and pull out just masses of blackberry and bindweed and all the things. And then I'll go through a second time with kind of a little bit more of like a fine-tuned eye. And when we give it like a week between weedings, what's cool is some of that bindweed starts to regrow, and then I can pull it out easier because I can see it growing from those teeny tiny little pieces that get left in the ground. Okay, so on the docket is finishing a second weed on that row. And then this pathway down here, we're going to try to get that done today. Back here in this corner has been one of the trickiest spots. Brian has done a really good job of getting that under control, but we still have lots of blackberry in there that we need to remove. So on the docket today, another row. We're going to get that knocked off the list, and we are also going to get the supports in. See this row right here? We are going to mirror, gosh, I don't know if I have enough T-posts, but I'm going to try to mirror the T-posts from here over here. I may end up just moving those over, but snapdragons and mums need a lot of support in the garden. And so I'm going to be installing T-posts, and I'll show you the Hortonova netting that we are also going to use. When I was down in the cut flower garden weeding yesterday, I noticed that when the irrigation ran in the morning, there were several spray spots. So if you ever come out into your garden and you notice like part of your soil is just blasted out, it's because you probably have a gap or some sort of like cut in your irrigation line. So I'm going to show you how I change out the drip tape. It is so easy. So I'm going to make a couple of repairs today as well. So all that having been said, I have a sun shirt on today, hoping this keeps me a little bit cooler. And I'm going to grab the last little bits of my coffee, a giant thing of water, and we're going to get into it. All right, friends, so I'm going to jump into doing a little bit of irrigation repairs. So this is a piece of drip tape. Look at this Hot Mess Express. We're not sure what happened. Could have been a blackberry, could have been a weed whacker, but it is going all the way down here. Brian asserts it is not a weed whacker. We don't know what happened. Regardless, this whole line needs to be replaced. I also have another line or another hole in the tomato row. I'm going to show you that one too because that one is more of a puncture. Here is the other irrigation repair. There's actually a hole here. I did this with the edge of my Hori Hori. It's in a little bit of this dappled shade, so it's hard to see. I tried to repair it with a little bit of Flex Seal. Didn't quite work, so we're going to rip out this line as well and draw a new one. So this is the drip tape that we have used all throughout, not only the cutting garden, but the veggie garden up above. It's super easy to use. We ordered it on this giant wheel because we have used it in so many different places in the garden. But essentially, it comes off and you just cut it to length. And it has little drip emitters. You can kind of see them there that are every 6 inches. Yeah, so it has drip emitters every 6 inches. We find that this is a good spacing. Any bigger than this, and it really doesn't give the coverage that we need for any of our growing zones, be it vegetables or cut flowers. So I'll show you how I detach the old irrigation line and hook up the new. Alrighty, so here we are. This is the start of the run. Obviously, I still have so much weeding to do, but this is our main supply line that comes down to the cut flower garden. And these are takeoff valves, okay? Now, you can purchase these with or without this green bit. What's great is that if I don't have a row planted out, which way do I turn this? Oh yeah, there it goes. If I don't have a row planted out, I simply can shut off the irrigation to a row, which is huge. I mean, can you imagine running all this irrigation if it wasn't needed for just like one row? It'd be ridiculous. So I'm going to shut this off. And what's kind of cool, and I haven't undone this in quite some time, so let's see how it comes off super easy. So basically, I unscrew this and then boom, that is literally it. And there's a little tiny barb there. So when this does tighten down, I'll kind of show you. When I screw it down like that, it tightens this end piece and crimps it around this barb so that when water comes shooting out of it, we don't automatically detach. So I'm going to remove this old line from this row and I'm going to string out a new one. All right, I want to show one more thing here. Now, I like to reuse as much as humanly possible in my garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip off the end here with my Felcos. And this is the end cap. And it's really just kind of a cool thing. It's held together in pressure. It feels kind of like you're doing this in reverse order, but I'll show you. Let me see if I can pop this guy out. Yep, there she comes. Okay. And you can see right here, literally, I've folded it over on itself twice. So you fold it in, and then you pull this cool little doohickey over the end, and the pressure keeps it in place, and it doesn't blow out the end. But I forgot. The other piece of this is that it doesn't slip over these emitter holes because there's a little extra plastic piece on the inside. I'll show you. See right there, that little pink thing? Ooh, matches the nails. This little emitter, it actually won't pull through this. So when you snap it or when you cut this and you go to install it, I cut it right before an emitter to give myself as much length as possible. But this piece is perfectly good, so I'm going to reuse it. So here is the new end piece. I have cut it right after one of these little emitter holes. You insert it first, and then I kind of scoot it all the way down and give myself some length here. Okay, and then fold it once, fold it twice. Let's see if I can get this in or if I need Brian's help. Sometimes it goes in real easy and other times it's kind of a beast and a half here. Oh, there we go. Got one end, got the other end. Boom. There she is. Okay, now I'm going to feed it down. I've got all my tomato cages in, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of scurrying under things. But here's my line. I'm going to pull it on through now. Alrighty, so you can see I have my emitter right here, and I want to give as much length as possible here because I'm going to feed this in. So I'm going to make my cut right here, and you can feel like the little knobby bit of the emitter. Okay, and I'm just cutting these with my Felcos. All right, so I use the end of my Felcos to gently pry open this hole. Then you're going to, once you want to make sure that this is fully open. If it's closed at all, you aren't going to have a successful closure here. So you're going to squeeze that guy on until you know you can't go anymore. And then you're going to do this to where it's hand tight. Okay. And then on your emitter goes. And let's do a test run. Okay, so we have a few more lines that we discovered that have nicks in them. So what we're going to do is we've removed those lines, we've shut off the valves, and now we're going to test run the system. And while we're down here, we're just going to do a really good once over. And this is something that you might need to do as well. We run our system at about, I don't know, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning before the heat of the day to make sure that everything not only gets a good drink, but it drinks it up before it evaporates. So we're going to start it up on the B-Hyve and take a peek and check for leaks. Here we go. Okay, so if you've never seen the B-Hyve before, oh, hello reflection. This is the B-Hyve app. It was really easy to set up. It did take a little configuring at the beginning, but right now it's just moving perfectly. Okay, so I'm gonna hit my water manual button, and we're gonna do a big run on this because I knew I had leaks down here, so I didn't run it this morning. I'm gonna go for 30 minutes. And there we go. And I have alerts set up, so that's why it's popping up there. Okay. Let's check our system. There she comes. Okay. So all of the emitters, by the way, you face up, and that one is going. Okay. I'm going to walk down the line and check for more leaks. Okay, and it's kind of cool. You can see it filling up right here. And as this thing fills up, it pushes everything down the main line. And then all of these lines go from this flat little piece of tape to big round irrigation. Oh yeah, there we go. And it's pushing out the air. Okay. There you go. You can really see all the little irrigation spots popping off. Okay, so this is the shaded part of my cut flower garden. And so here's the scoop. This is Stilby, looks terrible. And what was happening is I had a massive cut in the line 1 row back. And so there wasn't enough water pressure to push this through and irrigate the shade part of the cut flower garden. And so these have become crispy critters. But that's okay. We've got it up and running. We're going to get it fixed. And also, you can see we've just started weeding this final row. So this is the kind of stuff that we're looking for here. And this is the kind of stuff you'll see, like if you have a hoary and you get too close to a line or the edge of a shovel or something. I'm actually not too mad at this because it's right on this coral bark maple that we planted down here so many years ago. So I am actually going to use this to my advantage. And look at this. I'm going to be a little sneaky squirrel because I'm just going to let this go and really soak this tree. I'm just going to treat it like a drip emitter. And actually what I'll do after the system stops running, think what I might do is I might cut the irrigation right here and just cap it for now, because this whole area, we're still working on weeding. So I'm not going to water the weeds, but I do want to water the rudbeckia that I have going, and I do want to water this coral bark maple to make sure that it still keeps on going. And by the way, for anyone that needs an update, I will tell you right now, the easiest part of this entire garden to weed is the cardboard mulch row. I started in on this row and weeds are just pulling up like, so easy, so easy. And it has actually remained relatively weed free. More so, I think even more so than the, landscape fabric. So, but I've got like dock everywhere. It's driving me bananas. Okay, so next thing on my to-do list, and we're going to wrap up here because it's already starting to get hot and we've been out here since early today. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get my T-posts in. When I ran my T-post structure for snapdragons 3 years ago, I got them in too late. Now, let me give you a little bit of backstory. Snapdragons are one of the plants that are daylight sensitive. For example, if you cut them and you put them in a vase and they're like leaned in a vase and it's sitting outside, instead of them maintaining a straight stem, they will actually curve. They will bend towards the light. So it's really important that I give these snapdragons support as they grow because they're going to be a tall plant. These varieties I've planted are tall. They're meant to be cut flowers. And so if I don't have structure in place, they will start to lay down and then they'll curve and go up and be a really hard stem to work with. So when I did this a couple years ago, I came in really late with my Hortonova netting and I ended up having to like feed through all these teeny tiny little snapdragon shoots. It was a hot mess. So while these guys are small, we are going to get after it. I'm going to set my posts. I think I set them every 6 feet previously. It's about 6 feet, yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. I felt like 6 feet apart. That was a good spacing for me. The thing that I am going to do though, however, is I'm going to stop them short of the end of this row. Reason is we're thinking of installing a 3-foot little pathway down at this chain link fence because number one, we're still doing battle with blackberries and we want to be able to get in there and remove them whenever we need. Also, as all of this stuff fills in, it's kind of a pain in the butt if you're like down at the end of that row to walk all the way up here, around, and then down. So we're just going to do a little sneaky squirrel path along the chain link fence. Also, I kind of was thinking it might be fun to grow something on it next year once we have the blackberries under control. It's kind of a wish list item though. So I'm not going to worry about that today. So last thing, T-posts and getting the Hortonova netting. So before I get rolling here, I want to show you Hortonova netting. This is actually a material that can be used in a commercial setting, or if you have a small cutting garden, you can also use this. Now, this is what I am only using for my multi-branching items. I'm not going to use this on my dahlias. This is not a good application. This application is specifically for snapdragons and mums. You could maybe use this with zinnias, or I could use this with a Cosmo, something that's more like lightly branching, but I'll explain why. I don't know if this is going to come across on camera, but the Hortonova netting that I'm using is 3 feet wide, which matches the width of my rows. And you can see each one has a little, kind of essentially a square. This is about a 6-inch square. And this is just enough room for those snapdragons to go through and hold their shape. You know, the other thing that I've seen someone do is I've actually seen someone roll out their Hortonova netting and use this as a planting guide, which I kind of thought was genius. And this can be used from year to year. This is not necessarily a cheap disposable item. This can be saved. It can be used from year to year. You just remove it at the end of the season, ball it up, and it's actually really easy to untangle as well. So we're going to start with the 3-foot spacing for the T-posts, and then this will be the last thing that goes on. And what I actually do is I just slip this over the top, and there's enough tension here that it's perfect. And then also the T-post has all these little notches on it, and so it kind of like holds it perfectly in place. I didn't even have to tie this off last year. So let's get after it. It's getting hot. So if you've never used T-post before, I'm just going to give you a quick run through. There's a little anchor that's attached to the bottom of these guys. And this anchor is what we drive into the ground, and it keeps it really sturdy. Okay. When we get it started, we'll probably just like jam it down in there. And then I'll use a rubber mallet at the top to drive it in to a certain depth until I start seeing a lot of resistance. And then, gosh, what are those things called? Is it a T-post driver? Post driver? I don't know. Whatever it is, I'll see if I can link to it on Home Depot. That's where we got ours. You essentially put the sleeve over the top. It's got a handle on either side, and you just whack at that thing until it is at your desired depth. All right, let's do it. So I had a mental note as I was doing this. I am pounding these stakes into the ground. We have super sandy soil, so we do have to drive them pretty deep. And I was noticing they're right at eyeball height. And so I think I may take a note out of the old timer playbook. I think I'm going to put tennis balls on top. Do you think we could find cute tennis balls? I don't know.
We'll find balls.
We'll find something, but I am going to put tennis balls on the tops of each one of these because let me tell you, when you're in here working, if you're hot, you're sweaty, you're not paying attention, I just don't want any eye injuries out here. And so you're going to see me do that later. So if you see tennis balls appear, now you know why. Also, very fashionable ear protection. When you bang on these T-posts with the driver thing, it is like, it'll knock your noodle. So wear some ear protection. Safety first. So as you can see, this Portnova netting is going to be put to very good use. This guy was growing through this hole. I've brought him back up so we have a nice straight stem. This is going to be my next target. As I lower that side, I'm also going to weave him through. I don't know how big these blooms are going to get, and I'm being lazy and not looking up the information online. So I'm just kind of spreading these out between several squares. And this is actually 2 separate plants. So I've got one plant here, one plant there. Friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me being a very glistening mess this entire weekend. But it's just, thanks for coming along on the adventure. I'm going to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, please say hello to your garden for me. Oh my gosh, you guys, Brian is looking for his phone. It's in my back pocket. We've just spent an hour searching the ground for, actually it wasn't an hour. We just spent the last 20 minutes searching for his phone out here. He went inside, he got my phone. He's like, maybe I'll call it and I'll hear it buzzing. It's in my back pocket.